It was only supposed to be a race car, but became the envy of every garage in the world. It's just a variant of another model, but it's the most famous line its maker has. And the company that made it only sold it because they had to. This is everything you need to know to get up to speed on the BMW M3. In the early 80s, Mercedes upended the German racing scene when they turned their little 190 compact sedan into a monster. Even with a detuned Cosworth engine, the updated 190e 2.316, yes, somebody decided that that was a good name for a car, absolutely obliterated speed and endurance records and made Mercedes the go-to badge for the prestigious DTM race series. This was a homegrown German race series, and all the major German manufacturers wanted to win it, both as a way to make their brand stand out and just, you know, stick it to each other. So, when the new Mercedes seized the DTM crowd, BMW stood up and was like, "Nine!" BMW CEO Eberhard Kleinheim decided they needed to put a cooler engine into their 3 Series if they ever wanted to win the DTM again. But who could do such a thing? Well, turns out BMW happened to have a motorsport division called M for Motorsport. That is how German they were. It is for motorsport, what should we call it? What if we call it M? Oh, Hans, das ist genius. So geil, Hans, so smart. Now, up until this time, the M division only worked on racing spec cars, and really, that's all Kleinheim wanted. A racetrack version of the 3 Series that could spank Mercedes' butt on the circuit. Just like my dad used to spank my butt when I ate too much of the Christmas jam. But there was a problem. Homologation. To qualify for the racing series that BMW wanted to enter, the homologation rules required that BMW produce at least 5,000 units of the car. The racing leagues didn't want companies to produce track-only hypercars. They wanted modified versions of street-legal cars. Because of this rule, they were going to have to make this new 3 Series available to the public. BMW's sales department didn't think there'd be enough demand to justify a 5,000 unit production, but Mercedes' challenge would not stand. Kleinheim damned the torpedoes and just decided to greenlight production anyway. And so, M was off to the races, quite literally. The first order of business was to build an engine, and as it turned out, Beamer's motorsport division knew a thing or two about building pretty good engines. They grabbed the 6-cylinder inline motor from their earlier M1 sports car, but found that it was a little too heavy for the little 3 Series. Solution? Cut off 2 cylinders! Very German. With the now 4-cylinder block, they threw in the rest of the parts and went from 0 to working prototype in just 2 weeks. It took my dad 2 weeks to go buy cigarettes one time. These guys built one of the best racing engines ever. Wow! Engine done. Now it's time for the body. Hey, it's a 3 Series. It already had a body, right? Well, yes it did. And M threw away all but 4 panels. Every single other part was resculpted to be more streamlined, efficient, and aerodynamic. Plus, M then retuned the suspension, and the throttle, and the brakes. Basically, it was as far from the standard car as you could get while still claiming they were related. Kind of like your little brother who looks suspiciously like Mario Lopez. My mom was an extra on Saved by the Bell. Just saying. The end result in 1986 was a BMW 3 Series designed for space travel. Armed with its new 200 horsepower straight 4 engine with steering tuned by the grandmasters of the Nürburgring, the new car went like a bat out of hell on the straights and turned on a dime in the corners. BMW obviously wanted to make a good car, but even they couldn't have known just how good the end result would be. There was no real grand innovation here, no new invention that changed cars forever. The car just perfected being a car, just like I perfected whatever it is I do. What would you say my job is? All it needed was a name. Remember, this is the company that called their motorsport division M. With that kind of creativity, guess what they called their M Design 3 Series? If you guessed M3, you have no imagination at all. Also, you are 100% correct. The M3 did its job pretty damn well. It won a truckload of race trophies, and against BMW's expectations, it actually sold all of its 5,000 production run. In fact, it sold another 5,000 on top of that, and then another 5,000, and then another 3,000.
What? That's ridiculous.
BMW couldn't believe that people actually liked an awesome car. I mean, who knew? Because of the unexpected popularity, the Bavarians made a few variations, like the Evolution and Sport Evolution models. And they even made an M3 pickup truck. Seriously. Granted, it never went into mass production, but the M division kept the concept truck and used it for another 26 years. Man, I would love to sit on the tailgate of that M3 truck and crack a cold Bayern-Stefana. Arm around my Mauzi, chugging on sauerkraut and Schupfnudel and Kugels. Why are noodles dessert? All told, the original M3 became an icon of its era and remains a halo car to this day. Here's the thing though. That original E30 M3 was always meant to be a race car. It didn't have many features, the interior wasn't great, and it didn't exactly scream luxury. Like this. Luxury! So when the time came to update the M3 to match the 90s 3 Series, Munich decided to make the car feel more like a proper BMW. When the E36 M3 launched in 1992, it had a plush interior, a standard equipment range, and a much more restrained exterior. So long, box flares. Mom says you gotta go. Go on! Get out of here! I never liked you anyway. You were just too good for this world. But the Germans still got a little bit kooky, yeah? They put back the 2 cylinders they cut out of the original engine so that even though it looked modest on the outside, it was a straight 6 rocket on the inside. And what an engine it was. At 282 horsepower and 3 liters, it had the best horsepower to liter ratio of any natural aspirated car at the time. The US, for reasons unknown, got saddled with a detuned version of the engine. As always, f*** us, right? I mean, we're America. We don't like fast cars, do we? While the original E30 might have a lock on enthusiast hearts, the E36 is the M3 that set the direction for all future models. The next model, the E46 in 2000, was to the M3 what the M3 was to the 3 Series. Not all that different, but perfect. Rocking the last naturally aspirated straight 6 in the line's history, it produced 338 horsepower, over 100 more than its predecessor. Otherwise, it was just an M3, right? Well, yes, but better. The E46 was the true juggernaut of the M3 range, with over 85,000 units sold worldwide. Remember when BMW didn't think they could sell 5,000? Road and Track magazine called it their favorite sports car of all time. All time. That is all of the time. Again, the E46 didn't invent a new technology, it just did car well. Really, really well. And the GTR version had a big stonking V8 engine in it. But BMW wouldn't do that to an M3 again, right? Mein Gott in Himmel! That sounded Scottish. Yeah. For the E90 model in 2007, BMW made the V8 the standard and only engine option for the M3. Who cares about subtlety? Just go big, darn it! Midway through this generation's run, BMW refreshed it as the E92, which was exactly like the E90, only better, and with a sedan variant. For some reason, the convertible got a whole new version number as the E93, but that's not what people wanted. What the people really wanted was another M3 pickup truck, and they got one. Literally, one. BMW built another concept truck because apparently someone still thought this might be a good idea. In 2014, BMW updated the M3 to the F80, and with it, split the brand in half. The new M3 was only available as a 4-door compact sedan. The 2-door coupe was spun off as a brand new batch, the M4. This was because, I guess, the even numbers are 2 doors and then the odd numbers are 4 doors unless it's a 6. Then it can be both, or I have no idea why. Nobody does. It's the exact same thing. Did I mention my name is Javier now? Either way, the new M3 returned to the good old straight 6. This time with 2 turbochargers. That's right, the ultimate driving machine, a pure distillation of driving excellence, has gone turbo. And electric steering too. Purists didn't like the sound of these changes, but none of that put a cramp on the M3 style. Because when it released, the F80 was considered yet another Munich masterpiece, a 425 horsepower monster with a top speed of 174 miles an hour. Almost 3 times as fast as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. If they had these in Jurassic Park, no problem, the movie would be like 5 minutes long. After all this time and 5 different generations, the new M3 is still the king or queen of its class. For 30 years, the BMW M3 has proven that sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make the best wheel. From the E30 on the racetrack to the F80 on the road, the M3 has no single reason why it's the best. It just is. Just like me. Dad. That's everything you need to know to get up to speed on the BMW M3. This episode was filmed in front of a live studio audience. Also, still trying to buy that Lambo? Please send me $1. If we get one, then we'll do whatever you guys want us to do to it. Some people are sending in money. I got $2 now, so I only need 79,998 more. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching Up to Speed.